Hiya, it's Fred. We're back on the George Elmy again today. We're working on board the vessel today and we're progressing with the new decks. You see, we have a few bits of timber lying around, but we're working from both ends, so we're fighting over who gets the best timber first. So if you have a look up aft here, this is one of the difficult areas that we'll have to do, where because of the shape of the vessel we'll have to make them like a wedge and fan them out, so we'll have a substantial piece of timber to get the screw in right on the after end. So it's a little bit complicated to get it set out. We'll try to, normally you do one side and you balance it to match up the other side. Normally if you get a broad timber and split it across the middle to create your wedge, you can use the other side to do port and starboard, so there's no waste of timber. Now these areas here have already been done. We're decking. These are a few little offcuts that we have. And what we do is we machine them down and then we put a decking seam on, so when they go together you have a gap in between. That then goes on the bench when it's battened up. We put a strand of cotton in between, and then we use a rubber product to go in between the two. Now this timber is Iroko. Our supplier for this is Robert Duncan's up at Felon. They are local hardwood stockists, and mahogany for our cabin top, what Iroko for our floor, and they do stock various other timbers as well, but they're a very good local stockist. Again, you've got to find good local stockists and get them. Right, so one of the helpers, Ernie, at the top end there, he's just got some bays prepared, ready, so we'll remove one of them bays and we'll show you how to do some caulking and some filler. So this is one of the buttons that we've had put together. Again, with screws are countersunk in. They are going to have some filler on them when they're all done. That shows you the grooves in the deck. When you get your two bits together, that's the size of the groove that you make. On the back we'll have our buttons. These will get chamfered up, tidied up and sanded, then painted before they go back in. So stainless steel screws, countersunk slotted. Again, don't like Phillips. Countersunk slotted, you can do a lot with them. So I'll just stick this on a handy little bay for you. This is what cotton. Now depending on how tight the seams are is how many strands you put in. They don't usually tangle up as you're doing them, but because somebody's watching, it always finishes up in a mess. It doesn't take a lot to get these in. Just want to tap it into the base of the seam. This is a product that we use called Perflex, which is very good. It sets to rubber and you can cut it off with a knife when you're finished. We try to use the same nozzle all the time because you would be losing that much out of each tube, and you normally find that when you're busy the tube always runs out about 2 or 3 inches short of the end of the seam when you haven't enough to do the job. Sod's law, we'll finish up 6 inches short, so we need another tube. It's normally good to wear gloves when you're doing a lot of this because it's difficult to get off your hands. You've got to use something like a number 3 thinners. It's very good product, good sticking, but not good on your hands. Right, This one's been standing for a couple of days. Now it's finished. We get a trimmer knife. And just gently take that off. Tend to find that if you work your knife along at about 45 degrees, it cuts a lot easier. And that's nearly a finished seam there now. So now we'll get our sander on that, and that would come off. Again, this is the offcut. You can see it's quite rubbery, quite elasticated. We're going to have the boat's going to have a dip in the water to check for a few leaks. Hopefully we ain't got any, and then we'll screw them down into final position with brass captive screw caps and screws. And then if they have to come up at any time, the captive screws allow it to be put back in exactly the same position. Right, so if we'll adjourn upstairs now and we'll have another look at our canopy. As you can see on the inside here, we've removed the first sections of frames. They've had to be cut out. When you're having so many rebates and notches over the tops of your stringers, you can't physically take it out because they're trapped in, so I have to destroy the templates to get them out. But they've done their job, they've served their purpose. Now if we're going to have to, now when we get the second skin on, there's nails coming through here which will be clenched over, so there's quite a few to go in there. And this is one of the reasons why this is built up so much off the ground, is so we've got the room to get in to do our clenching. And on this bottom edge here we've got a gap there which is a couple of inches up. That was so we're doing outside planks, you can get a G-cramp in on the underneath for to hold the outside edge. If we put it straight onto the plank that we're constructing on, we wouldn't have the access for to get a cramp on the bottom. So wherever possible, always try to bridge something up so you've got room for a cramp. There's a nut and washer on the bottom, so when you're putting it in position, you can set off up or down to your correct position when you're doing your foundation. But they'll come out and they'll be used as fixing bolts when it's going onto the craft. Everything's ready now to start clenching, so we'll be finishing our floor off this week, and then Monday we're going to start afresh on the canopy, and then it'll be looking the finished skin, so that'll be a good job for it. Bit of varnish on afterwards, gives you a bit of incentive. Now on this half here now, we'll have completed the first skin. We've now put our cloth on, which is the same as the outside of the hull, but obviously this is a big sheet of cloth, and then to bond that onto there we've used a product called G4, which we'll paint on the hull, and then we'll put the cloth on top, and it cures the cloth and it sets pretty hard. It saves you having to put tacks and copper tacks and bits and pieces everywhere. Now, we've mentioned on my last little episode about a few tricks of the trade and having to make your own tools up to do your job. Now we'll have the first skin on and the cloth on, we'll have to put our second layer of mahoganies on here, which are going to go the opposite way. So there's a new layer to go on here, but now we haven't got our ribs to get our cramps on. This is where the difficult part is. So we'll have holes here that are cut out for our portholes and our skylight. So what we've done is we've came up with a cramping system. This is a homemade thing that we've knocked up ourselves. So what we'll have is lump of box section welded on, couple of bolt holes in, that goes on top of there. There's a plate goes on the underneath as a clamp, and then because it's in the bolt hole, that can be rotated in any direction to use these arms. Now, to go with that, we have another piece of box section which is smaller than that, so it fits in. That slides in, which gives you an adjustment to what you want. Weld it stud on, clamp that up, that holds it in position. Ernie's busy doing a section of deck under the wheel back on the forward end, the wheel deck. Now, the spaces that he's standing in, he's already made them bits of deck, but rather than work on your knees and be uncomfortable all the time, take a section of floor out, do your repair of your next bay, put the floor in. When he's got that bay complete, he'll take that out, he'll then step in that next bay and move forward. So it's only experience. Wherever possible, you try to keep off your knees. So you've got quite a nice little work area to get into there. It's a bit uncomfortable under there for height. More so for Ernie, because he's about 4 inches taller than me. So sometimes being short is an advantage. But he's doing a very good job. He's one of the trust members who's responsible for the boat, but he's quite a good journeyman. I don't know whether I need to be worried about him taking over from us or not. He's in the same age bracket, I think. We'll both retire at the same time.
Breakfast.